Every morning, a waitress helped an elderly man who barely spoke, until the day his lawyers arrived, with 4 bodyguards, and changed her life forever. Stay with me, because this story holds a secret you won't see coming. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Black Inside USA for more emotional and inspiring real-life stories. The Waitress, the Old Man, and the Morning That Changed Everything. The morning rush had not yet begun, but the soft hum of the chandeliers already filled the grand dining hall of the Carlton Regency Hotel. The sunlight spilled through the tall windows like liquid gold, brushing the blue velvet chairs and polished tableware with a glow that made even an ordinary breakfast feel special. To most guests, this place was simply a luxurious spot for a morning meal. To Mara, a hard-working waitress in her early 20s, it was her daily battlefield, one she approached with dignity, patience, and a smile that could warm even the coldest coffee. And every morning, without fail, he was there. The elderly gentleman, the man with the weathered hands, the soft eyes, and the old brown hat he never removed. He always sat at table 7. He always ordered the same thing: tea, toast, and a small bowl of fruit. And he always looked like he had walked through decades of memories just to sit in that chair. At first, Mara thought nothing of it. Regulars were part of the job. But this man, he seemed to carry something invisible, something heavy, something nearly sacred. He never caused trouble, he never complained, he never hurried, yet every morning, while she served him, it felt as though the world slowed down. As if time itself waited for the two of them to share those quiet minutes. Mara first noticed him 3 months earlier. He had walked in with a slow grace, the kind that made you think of old movies and handwritten letters. His clothing was simple but well cared for, and he always held his hat gently, as though it deserved respect. She approached him with her usual cheerful tone. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" He had offered her a small smile, brief, warm, and sincere. "Just tea and toast, thank you kindly." His voice was soft but steady, carrying the weight of someone who had lived carefully, with purpose. That first morning, Mara brought his meal quickly. The man ate slowly, savoring each bite as though the toast held something more than butter, perhaps memories, perhaps comfort. When he finished, he thanked her again, left cash on the table with a generous tip, and disappeared into the morning like a quiet breeze. The next day, he returned, and the day after that, and the day after that. Soon, serving him became part of her routine, a part she found herself looking forward to. She learned small things about him, just from observing. He liked his toast cut diagonally. He always held the teacup with both hands. He looked toward the windows often, as if searching for someone in the light. He smiled more with his eyes than his mouth. But the thing that stood out most, every morning, he seemed a little lonely. Not sad, not broken, just quietly, respectfully alone. So Mara made a small decision each morning, to be the gentle moment in someone's day. She never asked personal questions. She never pushed for conversation. She simply offered kindness in the simplest ways, warming his tea twice, bringing napkins without being asked, cutting his toast when his hands trembled slightly on colder mornings. It wasn't pity, it was connection, a quiet, human connection that neither of them fully acknowledged, yet both clearly appreciated. One Wednesday, she noticed something different. The elderly man looked unusually tired. His shoulders were slightly hunched, and he was breathing more heavily than usual. His hat rested on the chair beside him instead of his head. When Mara approached with his tea, he didn't smile, not even with his eyes. She set the tray down gently. "Are you all right today?" she asked softly. He looked up, startled, as if he had forgotten people could notice things. "Oh, yes, he whispered. "Just a long night." She hesitated. She wanted to do something, anything, to help. "Would you like your toast cut again?" she offered kindly. This time, he smiled a little. "Thank you, dear, that would be wonderful." She cut the toast carefully, arranging it neatly on the plate. When she placed it in front of him, he looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher, something between gratitude and sadness. "You remind me of someone," he murmured. "Who?" Mara asked. He paused, as though the memory itself was fragile. "My daughter." Mara's breath caught. "Oh, that's sweet," she said gently. "Is she doing well?" The old man looked down at his hands. "I hope so." Something in his tone told Mara that the story wasn't simple. But she didn't pry. She just placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, not for long, just long enough for him to feel that he wasn't alone. He finished breakfast slowly that day. As he left, he turned to her and said, "You're a good soul, young lady. Don't lose that. Then he walked out, a little slower than usual. Mara watched him go, feeling a small ache in her chest. She didn't know why. Friday began like any other. Mara clocked in, adjusted her apron, and scanned the dining room. All tables were empty except one. Table 7, the elderly man sat exactly where he always sat, his hands folded neatly in front of him. His hat was on, and he was staring at the door, as though waiting for someone. Mara smiled as she approached. "Good morning, sir, your usual today." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her with a calm, almost peaceful expression. "Yes," he said finally. "The usual, thank you." She brought the tea, she cut the toast, she warmed the fruit bowl. Everything was normal, until it wasn't. As she set the plate down, the dining room door swung open with a quiet whoosh. 4 individuals in suits entered, 2 men, 2 women. Their posture was straight, their eyes alert. Behind them walked 2 lawyers holding briefcases. The room fell silent. Mara blinked, confused. The guests who had just arrived scanned the room until their eyes locked onto Table 7. The lawyers approached. "Mr. Harrington," one of them said respectfully. "It's time, Mr. Harrington." So that was his name. The elderly man looked at Mara with a gentle expression. "Don't be alarmed," he whispered. "Everything is all right." But Mara's heart raced. Why did lawyers and bodyguards need to escort an elderly man who ate toast every morning? The older lawyer stepped forward. "Miss," he said, addressing Mara, "are you the server who attends to Mr. Harrington each morning?" "Yes," she answered slowly. "Is something wrong?" The lawyer exchanged a look with his colleagues. Quite the opposite. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Mr. Harrington has asked that this be delivered to you today." Mara stared. "Me? Why?" The elderly man smiled softly. "Open it," he said. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter, and a document that made Mara gasp. It was an employment contract. A life-changing one. One that included funding for college, housing assistance, and a monthly stipend, offered personally by Mr. Harrington. I don't understand," Mara whispered. The old man took her hand gently. "My dear, I've watched you for months. Your kindness, your patience, the way you treat everyone, especially an old stranger like me. You didn't know who I was. You didn't want anything from me. You were just kind." Mara felt her eyes sting. He continued, "My daughter and I grew apart many years ago. I made mistakes. I became distant. I regret much of my life, but watching you reminded me that goodness still exists in the world. And before my health changes further, I want to leave something meaningful behind." She shook her head in disbelief. "But sir, I was just doing my job." "No," he said softly. "You were doing something far rarer. You were caring." The lawyer stepped closer. "Mr. Harrington is transferring to a long-term care residence today," one explained gently. "He insisted on seeing you before he left." Mara knelt beside him, unable to hold back her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "But you didn't have to." He interrupted her. "Yes, I did." Then he placed something else in her hand. His hat. "This brought me comfort," he said. "Maybe one day, it will remind you of the mornings we shared." She held it to her chest. The 4 bodyguards formed a respectful perimeter. The lawyers gathered their folders. Mr. Harrington stood slowly, leaning a bit but still carrying dignity in his posture. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. "Take care of yourself, Mara. Live fully, live kindly, and live proudly." And then, he was gone. The dining room felt unusually quiet the next day. No tea waiting to be warmed. No toast to be cut. No gentle smile at table 7. Mara stood quietly, the hat resting in her hands. She felt the absence sharply, like a soft echo fading into silence. Later that day, she went into the break room and opened the letter again. It wasn't just a contract. It wasn't just financial support. It was a message from a man she hardly knew, yet somehow understood. Greater than, kindness doesn't need an audience. Kindness doesn't ask for recognition. But kindness, even the quiet kind, leaves a mark. You left a mark on my final chapter. I hope this gift helps open yours. Mara wiped her eyes. She knew what she had to do. She signed the document. She applied for the college program she had always dreamed of. She kept the hat on a shelf where she could see it every morning. And each time she passed table 7, she felt a warmth in her chest. Not sadness, not regret, just gratitude, for the unexpected friendship, for the lesson in compassion, for the reminder that even the smallest gestures can change a life. If this story touched your heart today, imagine how many lives a simple act of kindness can reach. Thank you for listening, and remember, every morning is a chance to change someone's world. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Black Inside USA for more emotional and cinematic narrations. Your support helps bring these meaningful stories to life.